Hello everyone, welcome back to another recall session. So today we're going to discuss with you about the physiology recall questions of INI-CET 2023. So let us start discussion of the questions. So the first question is, which of the following hormone acts via this pathway? The pathway shown in this is JAK-STAT pathway. The hormone acts via this JAK-STAT pathway is remembered by the mnemonic called as piglet. What is the full form of this piglet? P for prolactin, I for insulin like growth factor, G for growth hormone, then another G for growth factor is vasculoendothelial, L for leptin, E for erythropoietin, T for thrombopoietin. Okay. So from this, the answer on of this question is a leptin. Okay. The next question is, which of the following options is false regarding the measurement of temperature in a febrile patient? So let us look at the options. Rectal temperature is ideal for measuring the core body temperature. So this one is true. Rectal temperature is lower than axillary temperature. This one is completely false statement because rectal temperature is maximum of all body temperatures or temperature of all body parts. Tympanic membrane temperature is lower than rectal temperature. This one is true. And the last one is rectal temperature is higher than oral temperature. This one is also true. So the answer here is rectal temperature is lower than axillary temperature is the false statement. So the answer here is B. The next question is, which of the following statements are true about skeletal muscle? So let us look at the statements. Extracellular calcium is not important for contraction. This one is false. Calcium is mainly released from mitochondria. This one is also false. Calcium released from sarcoplasmic reticulum. This one is completely true statement. And the last statement is voltage gated calcium channel on sarcolemma has no role in excitation contraction coupling. It is completely false statement because voltage gated calcium channel is actually involved in excitation contraction coupling. Okay. So the answer here is only 3 because third statement is the only statement which is the true statement. The next question is, cells with prolific smooth endoplasmic reticulum secrete. So this is a straightforward and simple question because cells with prolific smooth endoplasmic reticulum will secrete steroid hormones. So the answer here is B, steroid hormones. The next question is, at which volume or capacity pressure measured at the upper airway becomes zero? Residual volume, functional residual capacity, total lung capacity, inspiratory capacity. So the pressure at upper airway, when it becomes zero, that is corresponds to one thing, that is functional residual capacity. Okay. So the answer here is B, functional residual capacity. This is a simple, factual, straightforward question. The next question is arrange the following bands in the sarcomere from the periphery to the center. So the bands in sarcomere from periphery to the center are actually Z line, most periphery to the A band, then H zone, and then M line. So the answer here is C, 1, 3, 4, and 2. The next question is which of the following are incorrectly paired? So let us look at the options. Gastrin, G cells, antrum. So this one is true. Secretin S cells, duodenum. This one is also completely true. Cholecystokinin I cells, duodenum and jejunum. This one is also true. Motilin M cells, duodenum and jejunum. Motilin is actually secreted from MO cells and it is secreted from stomach, small intestine, and colon. The next question is which of the following is responsible for fetal heart acceleration? So this is a simple straightforward question. Factual answer that the structure that is responsible for fetal heart acceleration is actually carotid body, chemoreceptors. The answer is A. The next question is our body was built to identify toxic substance by recognition of bitter test. Which of the following substances is responsible for the bitter test? So this is also a factual question. The substances responsible for bitter test is actually alkaloids, because alkaloids are the substances which has bitter test and responsible for rejection of food. The answer is B, alkaloids. The next question is the type of hypoxia based on the graph is consider the plot in red as normal. So this one is the graph. So this red plot is a normal graph, and this is the next graph which is shown in the image. So in this x-axis represent oxygen partial pressure and y-axis represents blood oxygen content in milliliter per deciliter and oxygen partial pressure in millimeter of mercury. So this given representation of the graph in the purple shown is actually representing the anemic hypoxia, because the blood oxygen content is actually decreases. So hemoglobin carrying capacity of oxygen decreases, that will lead to anemic type of hypoxia. So the answer here is D, anemic hypoxia. The next question is aeration reason type of question. The resting membrane potential is dependent on proteins and phosphate ions, and the reason explaining is diffusion potential can be calculated using Nernst equation. So let us look at the aeration. Resting membrane potential is dependent on proteins and phosphate ions. This is a completely true statement. And the reason explained here is diffusion potential can be calculated using Nernst equation. This is also a completely true statement. So these both are completely true statements. But let us join these two statements by the word called because. Resting membrane potential is dependent on proteins and phosphate ions because diffusion potential can be calculated using Nernst equation. So this reason is actually not the explanation for aeration. Okay, this is not there. So the aeration is independently a true statement, and the reason is also independently a true statement, but the reason is not the correct explanation for the aeration. So the answer here is C. Both aeration and reason are independently true, and the reason is not the correct explanation for the aeration. Okay. The next question is Wind-Kissel effect is shown by all except. So Wind-Kissel effect is actually effect of elasticity, explaining when the large artery stretched, it will undergo elastic recoil. So this is actually consider it for large vessels like carotid, renal artery, aorta, etc. Okay. So let us look at the options. Radial artery. No, it is not responsible for Wind-Kissel effect. Renal artery. Yes, it is responsible for Wind-Kissel effect. Aorta. Yes. Carotid artery. Yes. So the answer here is the artery which is not responsible for Wind-Kissel effect is radial artery. The next question is increase in blood pressure at the beginning of Valsalva maneuver is due to. So when you begin Valsalva maneuver, there is increase in blood pressure. This actually there is a reason behind it. It will lead to increase in intrathoracic pressure, and which will lead to increase in aortic pressure. So the answer here is increase in intrathoracic pressure, which adding to the aortic pressure is the result of increase in blood pressure at the beginning of Valsalva maneuver. So the answer here is B. The next question is which of the following statements is false about male sexual development? So let us look at the statements. At 8 weeks, the embryo is bipotent. This is false statement. Embryo becomes bipotent at 7 weeks, not 8 weeks. Okay, so this is the answer of this question. Let us look at the other statements. Wolffian duct develops into epididymis and vas deferens on either side of the body. So this one is true. Mullerian inhibiting substance inhibits Mullerian duct. This one is completely true statement. Dihydrotestosterone leads to the development of secondary sexual characters and external genitalia. This one is also completely true statement. So the answer here is A. The next question is the upstroke of action potential phase 0 in the sinoatrial node is due to in sinoatrial node the action potential upstroke which is at phase 0 is actually due to the calcium channel L-type voltage gated opening. So this is actually due to the calcium currents in that channel. Okay, so the answer here is B, calcium currents only. The next question is which of the following types of pain stimulus is associated with the Karaginan induced experimental pain model? So the pain stimulus that is associated with the Karaginan induced experimental pain model is actually deep boring stimulus. See, this is a straightforward, simple, factual question, and that you have to remember it. In Karaginan induced experimental pain model is used the pain stimulus of deep boring stimulus type. So the answer here is option number C. The next question is insulin independent glucose transporter is present in all of the following except. So let us look at the options. Brain, yes, it is present insulin independent glucose transporter. Adipose tissue, no. There is actually insulin dependent glucose transporter which is present. RBC, yes. Pancreas, yes. So brain, RBC and pancreas has insulin independent glucose transporter, but the adipose tissue is insulin dependent glucose transporter because it actually requires insulin to transport glucose. Without insulin, adipose tissue cannot transport glucose. Okay, so the answer here is B, adipose tissue. The next question is which of the following is responsible for the phase marked C2D in the given nerve action potential? So C2D is the phase of repolarization. It happens because of potassium channel opening causes efflux of potassium ion. Okay, so the answer here is D, potassium efflux. The next question is the given graph shows the effect of parathyroid hormone on blood calcium and phosphate levels in an experimental animal. How does parathyroid hormone increase plasma calcium levels? So parathyroid hormone increases plasma calcium levels by stimulating osteoclastic activity and inhibiting renal excretion of calcium. So the first option is by increasing osteoclastic activity. This one is true. By decreasing renal excretion of calcium. This one is also true. By increasing osteoblastic activity. No, this one is false. And by increasing osteoclastic and decreasing renal calcium excretion. So this one is true. So they are asking which is the true statement. So the answer here that is most relevant and most feasible here is option number D because that is describing both actions by increasing osteoclastic activity and decreasing renal excretion of calcium. The next question is in the given cross section of a muscle spindle, the structure marked below is innervated by which of the following motor nerve fibers? The structure marked is the cross section of muscle spindle. Marked structure is intrafusal muscle fiber, which is innervated by gamma motor neurons. So the answer here is A. The next question is which of the following is responsible for pneumoperitoneal bradycardia following carbon dioxide insufflation during laparoscopic surgery? So let us look at the options. Decreased afterload? No. Pneumoperitoneal bradycardia is not due to decreased afterload. Vascular injury? No. Air embolism? No. Peritoneal stretching? Yes. Peritoneal stretching will lead to compression of vessels, and compression of vessels will lead to decrease in the venous return, and that will responsible for pneumoperitoneal bradycardia during insufflation. Okay, so the answer here is D, peritoneal stretching. The next question is which of the following sodium transporters are present maximally in the early part of the proximal convoluted tubule? So let us look at the transporter that are given in the question. Sodium potassium ATPase, yes, it is present in the early part of the proximal convoluted tubule. Sodium glucose cotransporter, yes, it is present. Sodium hydrogen antiporter, yes, it is present. Sodium potassium 2 chloride cotransporter, no, it is not present in the early part of DCT, it is actually present in the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. So the answer here is C, 1, 2 and 3. The next question is which of the following statements is incorrect with respect to the baroreceptors present in the carotid sinus? So let us look at the options. They need the support of electromechanical transducers. So yes, it is correct. The next option is they are located in the deep smooth muscle layer. This one is completely false. They are actually located in the adventitia, which are superficial layer in the aorta. Next statement is afferent fibers pass via cranial nerve number 9. Yes, it is true. The next statement is they express several non-selective cation channels. Yes, this is also true because several non-selective cation channels like sodium channel, potassium channel, calcium channels, these are all expressed by baroreceptors in the carotid sinus. So the answer here is option number B because they are located in the adventitia superficial layer of the aorta, not in the deep smooth muscle layer. So the answer here is B. So with this, we complete our recall session. So thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.